Good evening. It is Monday, April 13th, and as promised, I wanted to do a video diving a little bit deeper into the situation currently with the allegations against Representative Eric Swalwell and also what the kind of aftermath has been of that breaking news. Now, before I jump in, I want to say I will be using the legally and medically appropriate terms in this video and not censoring that language. So if that bothers you, please know going in that I will be using those languages. And also, your liking, commenting, or sharing, etc. the video really helps because TikTok does censor content for not using those imaginary terms. So with that being said, let's jump right in. So the most critical development is that Representative Eric Swalwell has officially announced his resignation from Congress following a 48-hour political collapse. So let's dig in first to those core allegations. The scandal itself, I hate using that word, broke on Friday, April 10th, following reports by the San Francisco Chronicle and CNN. Very specific, serious allegations that do involve a reported pattern of behavior that spans several years. Now, according to that reporting by the San Francisco Chronicle and CNN, the accusations primarily came from a former staffer and then 3 additional women. So the most severe claims were made by an unnamed woman who worked in Swalwell's district office starting in 2019 when she was 21. The woman told CNN that in April of 2024, after she had left his staff, she met Swalwell for drinks in New York and claims she became heavily intoxicated and has no memory of the end of the night until waking up while being assaulted. She stated, quote, "I was pushing him off of me, saying no. He did not stop," end quote. She described sustaining physical injuries, including bruises and cuts, which were reportedly corroborated by medical records and contemporary accounts she shared with friends. Now, in 2019, she also alleged an incident during her employment where she woke up naked in a hotel room with him after drinking, with no memory of how she got there, although she believed strongly that sexual contact had occurred. She described a relationship that began as professional mentorship, but shifted to Snapchat, where she claimed Swalwell sent her explicit photos and requested the same from her in return. She noted feeling flattered and uncomfortable due to that power dynamic and his authority over her. Now, 3 other women spoke to CNN about a similar pattern. One woman alleged she met Swalwell after connecting online, became heavily intoxicated during their meeting, and later found herself in his hotel room. She alleged he touched her legs and kissed her without consent earlier in the evening. 2 other women alleged that Swalwell initiated contact on platforms like X under the guise of political networking, but quickly escalated to sending unsolicited nude photos and sexual messages, again via Snapchat. Unlike many of these sorts of political accusations, the reporting outlets here indicate they reviewed several pieces of key documentation. CNN reviewed messages that corroborated the timelines of the meetings and the nature of the digital communication, so things like text and Snapchat messages. And then specifically related to the 2024 New York incident, these reports also mention medical documentation of the physical injuries that were described by the victim. And reporters spoke with both friends and family who the women had confided in shortly after the alleged incidents occurred. Now, moving into Swalwell's kind of defense, he has consistently denied the most serious criminal allegations while acknowledging personal failings. He's called the sexual assault and rape claims, quote, flat false and politically motivated to stop his run for governor. He issued a statement saying, quote, "I am deeply sorry for mistakes in judgment I've made in my past." That is being widely interpreted as an admission of extramarital affairs and explicit digital messaging, even as he denies the non-consensual acts. Now, before his resignation, his attorney sent cease and desist letters to at least 2 of the women, arguing that their ongoing, quote, voluntary and cooperative contact with him in the years following the alleged incidents undermined their claims. Now, the current status is that the Manhattan District Attorney is specifically investigating the 2024 New York City incident as a criminal matter. While the House Ethics Probe began today, his resignation that was just announced this evening effectively ends the House's ability to discipline him through those channels, ironically similar to Representative Matt Gaetz. from Florida, though it does not stop the criminal investigation. So, a timeline again of how quickly this moved. So, Sunday night, Swalwell suspended his campaign for governor of California. This morning, the House Ethics Committee formally opened a bipartisan probe into his conduct with subordinates. And then this afternoon and evening, facing a bipartisan chorus for his removal and a looming expulsion motion, which I reported on over the weekend from Representative Anna Paulina Luna, Swalwell did announce he would resign his seat, citing a desire as not to be a, quote, distraction from his constituents. So now that you know the details and some of the allegations and some of the immediate actions, let's talk a little bit about the political fallout of this situation. Within 24 hours, all 21 members of Congress who had endorsed his gubernatorial run revoked their support. This included close allies like Senator Alex Padilla and Representative Ruben Gallego, the latter stating Swalwell was, quote, not the person I thought I knew. Major unions, including the California Teachers Association and SEIU California, immediately rescinded their endorsements and also pulled funding. And a lot of reporting coming out suggesting that these allegations were considered open secrets in California political circles for years. There are claims that similar stories circulated during his 2020 presidential bid, but were suppressed because those victims were not ready yet to come forward. And I will add here that in my own use of social media, especially on Blue Sky, I have seen many people making posts almost bragging about the fact that they knew that Swalwell was doing this, especially in terms of having extramarital affairs, sending Snapchats to staff of his genitals, etc., and that this was just an openly known and accepted thing. My question to all of those people would be, if you saw someone in a position of authority using that authority to get vulnerable, allegedly vulnerable young women intoxicated in order to have sexual relationships with them, why did you not say something sooner? Now, the broader congressional context here is his resignation is occurring amidst a broader push for accountability in the House. As I reported this morning, there are several other members on both sides of the party lines currently facing either expulsion threats or ethics probes for various offenses. So if you want to know more about those, Representative Tony Gonzalez, Representative Sheffilis McCormick, Representative Mills, you can go ahead and look at that pinned video on my channel. Now, a little additional thing that people are talking about is the Fang Fang case from 2020. Now, this was a report involving Christine Fang, who was a suspected Chinese intelligence operative who targeted Bay Area politicians between 2011 and 2015, helping Swalwell with fundraising and placing an intern in his office. He received a defensive briefing from the FBI in 2015 and immediately cut ties. While the House Ethics Committee cleared him of all wrongdoing in 2023, that story has been brought up alongside these allegations in order to paint him by opponents as a security liability when it comes to his relations with women. So in quick summary, Eric Swalwell resigned from Congress, suspended his governor's campaign. The Manhattan DA has an active criminal investigation into sexual assault claims. The Health Ethics Committee opened a probe, which will likely be rendered moot by his resignation. And the California primary, he does remain on the ballot because it is too late for his removal. I'm JJ Hastings. Let me know what questions you have, and I'll see you in the next one. Good evening. It is Monday, April 13th. My name's JJ Hastings, and I just posted a video giving a deeper dive into the allegations and then kind of current timeline and aftermath of the allegations against Representative or former Representative Eric Swalwell. And I covered that story pretty extensively with what we know right now from top to bottom based on verified reporting. And I wanted to make this follow-up video because I wanted to share a little bit more of my opinions on this particular story, especially as someone who is very open and honest and transparent with you about being a survivor of sexual violence. So I did just make an outline that I will be referencing because I want to get through this without getting emotional if I can. So, if you recall from that earlier video, or if you didn't see it, before his resignation, Eric Swalwell's attorney sent cease and desist letters to at least two of the women making those allegations against him, arguing that their ongoing, quote, voluntary and cooperative contact with him, unquote, in the years following the alleged incidents undermines their claims. Now, as a survivor of sexual assault, this statement really infuriated me. And I understand that this is what a lawyer's job is. This is what they are supposed to do. But it is exhausting to watch people get on social media and get on the news and tap dance for us about the Epstein allegations and the Epstein files in order to get tokens or points towards their reputation or credibility, and then resort to the identical disgusting rhetoric when their own accusations come into light. The idea that if someone stays in contact with the person they say sexually assaulted or harassed them, then it somehow didn't happen. That's what the defense is that is being used here, that these women had voluntary and cooperative contact afterward. Therefore, the rest of those details should just simply be erased. That argument only works if you ignore three things. One, how power works in our society. Two, how having a career works in our human society. And three, how trauma works in the human brain. Because these weren't random women or random people. These were young women working under someone with influence over their jobs, their reputations, their futures. In that kind of environment, staying in contact isn't proof of consent. It is a strategy for survival. So instead of asking, why didn't they simply cut him off if he did these things to them? Maybe the real question you should be asking is, what kind of system makes it feel impossible for victims of sexual-based violence and crime to do that in the first place? Ongoing contact, as I said, is not consent. That framing assumes that people have the freedom always to just walk away cleanly from their perpetrator or their attacker. They don't. Especially not young people whose careers depend on that access and those references and that reputation. Staying cordial and responsive, even friendly, especially as a young woman, can be a calculated decision meant to protect yourself, not proof that nothing happened. When you look at people who have been sexually assaulted by a member of their own family, or a leader in their church, or a coach, or a prominent member of their community, you typically see those victims having to maintain social, personal, or professional contact with those people for years in the aftermath of that abuse. There is absolutely nothing different about these young women and their situation that we should even for a moment think that their decision as young political staffers to continue giving grace and friendly attitude to a much older man with much more power and access who could destroy their careers with a phone call. I don't think you have to be Einstein to make that connection. And this isn't two random adults who are on equal footing. These were women who worked for him. That means a hierarchy. They had a dependence upon him as well as a risk. When your boss or your mentor or someone in your orbit who can have influence on your career crosses a line, you know that your choices are constrained. You're not just asking, was this wrong? You're asking, am I going to lose my job if I tell someone about this? Could this damage my future? Could this affect my credibility? And when you're a woman, you have to ask yourself those questions 2 or 3 times harder. And if you're not willing to hear that, then this probably isn't the video for you anyway. I could name an instance for every woman I know who is a mentor in my life, who part of their mentorship was telling me and preparing me for what to do and how to respond when men in my sphere went over the line. This is something we are just taught in our society to accept and then try to navigate around so it doesn't destroy our outside lives the way it destroys our inside self. Trauma also doesn't follow a clean, logical timeline. People love an idea that a real victim cuts all contact immediately, instantaneously reports it to the police, immediately goes to the hospital for an SA kit, tells everyone what happened with intense, firm evidence, and then consistently behaves like a perfect victim forever from that moment. And that's just not how trauma works. People compartmentalize their trauma. They minimize their trauma. They rationalize it. They delay it. They stay connected to make it feel like it isn't real. They go back. They keep texting. They stay in the marriage. They take the abuse. These aren't new facts. These are things we all know as documented reality in relation to domestic violence, sexual abuse, incest, etc. None of that invalidates these women. It actually lines up with what we know about trauma response. Additionally, the phrase voluntary and cooperative is sure doing a hell of a lot of manipulating here in this sentence and in this statement. These words are legal language, not reality. Someone can appear cooperative while feeling trapped or pressured. Voluntary in a power imbalanced, non-consensual arrangement or situation is fiction. It ignores that coercion isn't always explicit. And I thought we gave up the rhetoric that if you have a couple of drinks, it means a man gets to rape you 30 years ago. Also, this argument punishes what we teach young people in our culture as what professionalism looks like. We say keep things polite, keep it professional. Don't react emotionally. You'll look unstable or unreliable. This is a no-win situation, and that's why men who do this continue to get away with it. It also perpetuates a long-dead myth about perfect victims. This defense is basically saying if you don't behave exactly how we think a victim should behave, then your claim is automatically suspect. And that standard doesn't exist in real life. It only exists to dismiss people, to dismiss victims, to stop people from coming forward. God forbid you work in a field that people perceive to be sexualized, because then it's obviously your fault when you get raped. God forbid you wear a pair of shorts on a hot summer day, because clearly you're asking for it. This kind of statement sounds exactly like those statements to me as a woman and as a survivor. And cease and desist letters amplify that obvious power imbalance. Sending legal threats to younger, less resourced women isn't a legal move, it's a pressure tactic. It's saying, I have resources, you don't, so you should probably just shut the fuck up. And trying to claim that this is politically motivated sidesteps the substance of these allegations, the proof that journalists have seen, medical reports, text messages, videos, photos. It reframes your accuser as a schemer or a scam artist to take the heat off of what's actually being said about you. At the end of the day, this defense isn't about evidence. It's about your societal expectations of young women. It relies on an outdated idea that there's a right way to be a victim, and that if something bad happens to you, you should be able to respond perfectly. But real life doesn't work like that. People don't work like that. We have to navigate harm inside systems that are meant to do more harm. We have to find power in a situation where every ounce of our power has been forcibly taken from us. So instead, we weigh the risks. We protect ourselves the best way we can, and sometimes that means staying polite. Sometimes that means smiling in the hallway and posing for a photo at an event. Because when you sexually assault us, you already take our dignity. And we're not going to let you take our career along with it. I'm JJ Hastings. I am a survivor of sexual assault, and I will not be ashamed, and I will never be silent. And I'll see you in the next one.